Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Tuesday everybody. Less than a week after it was officially confirmed that Foreign Minister Qin Gang has been removed from his post, we learned yesterday that General Secretary Xi Jinping has appointed new leadership for the PLA, People's Liberation Army, Rocket Force, a powerful part of the military which oversees the country's nuclear and conventional missile arsenals. According to state broadcaster CCTV, Wang Houbin, the Navy's former deputy commander, will become the new head of the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, while Xu Xisheng will move from Southern Theater Command to become its new political commissar. The shake-up in the leadership comes at the same time of reports that several members of the previous leadership are under investigation, as well as the death of the deputy commander earlier in July. What is going on? Of course, we do not know. Different outlets are reporting different causes based on unnamed sources. So we need to take these reports with a grain of salt, as we do not know who these sources are and what the intention behind their leaks are either. Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post reports, citing unnamed military sources, that the Central Military Commission's Anti-Corruption Unit is currently investigating the force's former commander, as well as his current and former deputies. UK-based Financial Times writes, however, quote, "Two foreign senior government officials, briefed on related intelligence, said the Rocket Force leaders were being probed for leaking military information." End quote. The outlet then quotes the source as expressing, quote, "The trigger was the fact that we, outside of China, have quite a detailed understanding of the Rocket Force's structure by now. It's about divulging secrets." End quote. Next up, we have actions and statements from two important bodies to cover. On Monday, yesterday, China's powerful National Development and Reform Commission issued 20 measures, ostensibly to promote consumption. State-run Global Times writes that an important focus of the 20 measures is stabilizing consumption of big-ticket items, such as houses and cars. In terms of houses, the National Development and Reform Commission reiterated support for those buying their first homes and those seeking to upgrade their living standards. In addition, quote, "The National Development and Reform Commission called for implementation of the paid leave system, off-peak leave, and flexible work and rest in order to boost cultural and tourism consumption." End quote. However, the measures announced on Monday were vaguely described. For cars, for example, Beijing tells local governments to, quote, "increase financial support for auto consumption," end quote, without giving specifics. Also, while these measures seek to improve consumption, as many analysts have pointed out, these are actually all supply-side measures. Not one actually directly supports consumers or household income, bringing into question once again whether these types of policies can really help lift consumption in any meaningful way. Quote, "For all the excitement, most of these measures don't expand consumption at all. They are designed to encourage consumption by improving delivery mechanisms, creating more consumption occasions, promoting sports and cultural events, reducing restrictions, for example on car purchases, extending shopping hours, improving consumption-related infrastructure, increasing advertising and marketing, advocating healthier consumption patterns, and so on." But what all these measures miss is that the total consumption of Chinese households is limited by their household budgets, which is in turn limited by disposable household income. While Chinese households can shift spending from one set of goods to another, the total amount they can spend on total consumption is much harder to change, and certainly won't increase just because cultural events are more heavily advertised or shopping malls stay open later. Unfortunately, because measures designed to encourage the consumption of specific products will increase consumption of those products, policymakers will think their measures are working. But without an increase in household budgets, these measures will simply switch consumption from one set of products to another. The few measures that will actually expand consumption will do so only because they deliver subsidies for specific goods, effectively increasing disposable household income by the amount of the subsidy. The problem with these measures is that they are too small to matter. The easy prediction is that while over the short term we might see temporary variations in consumption rates, especially if we ever do get the long-awaited partial reversal of the COVID-related contraction in consumption, over the medium and longer terms, the only way consumption will play a greater role in the economy is if there is an increase in the relative share ordinary households retain of China's GDP. Of course, that requires a reduction in the government share, and that's what makes it so difficult to implement. End quote. The next body to look at is the State Council, China's cabinet, and then we move on, once again, to the housing crisis. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit that like button. Sharing these episodes with people who you think would enjoy this sort of content is also a huge help. It is just me making this content, so this sort of support, liking, sharing, subscribing is a massive help for the channel and very much appreciated. And for anyone who can go the extra mile, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. This helps keep the channel financially sustainable and primarily subscriber supported. Thank you so much everybody for the ongoing support. On Monday, Beijing also saw an executive meeting of the State Council, China's cabinet. According to state media, the meeting said that China will optimize property policies while, quote, stepping up research and construction of a new development model for the industry. End quote. It also said that cities should roll out property measures that meet their own needs without offering more details. Quote, the readout is like a laundry list of tasks coming out of last week's Politburo meeting, also with no detail given. The language about real estate again has some excited. We need to adjust and optimize real estate prices, introduce policy measures conducive to the stable and healthy development of the real estate market according to different demands in different cities, and accelerate the research on constructing a new development model for the real estate industry. End quote. And on that theme, we end today's video by looking at yet more support measures being rolled out at the local level in yet another attempt to revive the property sector. Yesterday, Monday, shares in Chinese real estate firms surged, albeit from very low bases, after 3 of the country's 4 first-tier cities, Beijing, Shenzhen and Guangzhou, expressed support for the central government's plans to roll out policies to aid home buyers. Chinese financial media outlet Yicai Global reported yesterday that Beijing, Shenzhen and Guangzhou all announced that they would bolster local demand for properties, though specific details regarding how this would be achieved were not released. As we discussed in yesterday's video, at present first-tier cities have strict curbs on the purchase, taking out loans, sale and pricing of real estate. Quote, while these policies aim to limit speculative behavior, they also significantly restrict legitimate housing demand. It is important for policies to be adjusted as needed to support demand, stimulate the second-hand housing market, and invigorate the market. End quote. Then today, according to Chinese financial media outlet Cailian, the Shanghai government, the 4th of the 4 Tier 1 cities, announced that it will, quote, optimize real estate policies, end quote, adding, quote, policy optimization may proceed from lifting restrictions related to self-occupied housing demand and optimizing housing loan policies. Once the relevant policies are implemented on a large scale, the Shanghai real estate market is expected to improve rapidly. End quote. Beijing's Municipal Housing Ministry on Saturday night said it would take into account the city's real estate situation and work with relevant departments to implement the pledges of policymakers at the national level. The southern megacity of Shenzhen made a similar statement on Sunday, as did Guangzhou. China's Tier 1 cities may well see a recovery in activity. These real estate markets have long been driven by both hot speculation as well as real underlying demand from China's wealthiest citizens in these major economic hubs. However, as we saw especially in yesterday's episode, and of course after months of following this area, at the national level, most cities across the country have already removed most restrictions and rolled out many policies to promote real estate activity. And as we have seen so far, this has all seen very little success. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.